She did a lot of travel.
Yeah, I got all the creams, the bombs, yeah. Yeah. And the views are stunning, just like the
Yeah, before
biggest
we go
glaciers you've ever
Karen,
seen.
And
Just
the
absolutely
woofing
crazy.
and the I sense from all the chatter, we really could just sit here and have a social couple of hours, but catch up on how summer went. But maybe we should have a meeting since we came. Willow, would you?
Yeah, I can start it off. Good evening, everyone. My name is Willow, and I am the City of Eugene staff representative for this meeting. Before the chairs convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. We'll start with our land acknowledgement. This week, we have Ryan to share, and then I said in the email who was next, but I did not write.
It's me.
Oh, it was you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Peter's next for September. So we'll start there.
Cool.
Well, I wanted to share a little bit about the Siletz Tribal Housing Department, which is a subset of the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz, of which the Kalapuya are a member tribe. I've got the pleasure of working with them a number of times over the past few years, which has been very, very fun and rewarding projects. Specifically, I get to work with a guy named Rob Smith, who is a member of the Yakama Nation, and he's been working with the tribal development. He's the manager of development and modernization for the housing department. And what he gets to do with the overall mission of the department is they work on trying to provide tribal members with that are low income with access to housing that meets affordability needs, is safe, healthy living environments. They have a number of different programs that they do that are directed for low income. They have rental, they do rental assistance, they do emergency housing, they provide student housing for tribal members. And the one that he's the most excited about and I like working with is a program they call Home of Your Own, which is where they it's a HUD funded program, but they develop they build homes on tribal land, and then they provide that to people who members of the tribe who want to be homeowners, and it helps them strengthen their credit scores and it gets them out of the rental cycle. Which was Rob was telling me is a real big problem. Is that often they get into that rental housing and they can never afford to get out. So it gives them a chance to build equity and improve their overall financial well-being. And they've got different ones in the town of Siletz itself, but they also have stuff in Lincoln City and Salem. And it's just a really neat program that they've been doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so we've done our land acknowledgement and we can move on to the purpose of the Active Transportation Committee, which is to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and biking and to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions. City of Eugene staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making processes. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed, meaning it can be viewed on the City of Eugene Transportation Planning YouTube channel both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary will be held in the public record. Today, we will begin with a 15-minute public comment period. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When it is your time to speak, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward or neighborhood. We welcome and encourage public participation at all meetings, but due to time constraints, only ATC members and invited presenters can ask questions and participate in discussion after the public comment period. So we'll begin with those joining us online. If you're online and would like to speak, you can use the raise hand feature and I can promote you. I don't think anyone online is interested in public comment tonight, so we can move on to folks in person. I can grab this.
Thanks.
Mary?
Connie's not here, so we're not guaranteed at least one.
Okay, it looks like we have Mary here to give some public comment.
I just do it right here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that works great.
Okay, well, I am Mary Christensen, Ward 2, and I am a past member of the Active Transportation Committee, and now I'm a member of Community United to Repair Our Broken Sidewalks Curbs, along with Sue and Nancy Buffum on your group. And I was coming because there's a work session scheduled, City Council work session on sidewalks, and they're gonna give an update about how the city's doing on sidewalks. And that's in September. And so we're trying to kind of garner all the support right now. So I looked back when I was on ATC, we sent a letter of recommendation about some things, sidewalk related things, and it was August 30th, 2022. So it's 4 years ago. I couldn't believe it that we started working on it. Peter was on that committee. I think you were on the sidewalk committee. Yeah, you're still here, Peter. Anyway, so it has been moving along kind of slowly, but actually faster than some things move in the city, you know, so because I think it was just something that so needed to be done. So phase one, I say was like defining the problem and calling attention to it. And I think that's pretty much complete because people generally agree, leadership, city leaders and people who are advocates at least generally agree that something needs to be done about our deteriorating sidewalks because we don't have a systematic way that's equitable and sustainable to fix them. So then phase two would be like discussion and the city actually did move forward. They hired staffing, Jody's, you know, tasked with sidewalks and they put a lot more attention on, they did a pilot project. So there's discussion and a little bit of action, still no like systematic fix. And now it's going to the city council. We're meeting with the city manager. She agreed to meet with us. I've been talking to the Sustainability Commission, ATC. So I feel like it's that time right now where things are kind of coalescing and it's time for us to say, yeah, we really want this. You know, so the city staff, I think, is poised to go forward. I'm meeting with Jody on Monday. And I think they're poised, but they're going to need some public push, you know, to make sure that it can get done. And so the city councilors know that it's popular. And of course, this funding is a whole issue. So it's not like it's gonna be done, but it's not gonna be done unless we start pushing. So I'm just advocating. I know you've done some work on sidewalks. I'm not quite up to date with where you are on your sidewalk work, but I'm just giving a cheer and a push to say, if you guys have any kind of, I really, what I would ask for is a really strong voice from you. You're not advocates, but you are the recommenders you represent all of us and you're recommending. And so I would ask you to have a really strong recommendation about the city moving forward into some action and, you know, whatever you want to say, because I know you've got some other things that you've asked them for. But this is just me saying, rah, rah, sidewalks, it's time, rise up.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that.
And-
the work session? It's September, do you remember, Sue? I've looked it up 5 times a day, I bet.
Wednesday,
Say the 17th.
September 23rd.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll actually even have another meeting here before that work session. Mary, the public comment doesn't provide a really great chance to have a lot of interaction,
Yeah.
but I'm almost tempted to like have Curbs come do a presentation, you know, formal presentation for us in the future.
Right,
That
yeah,
might be-
because not everything has to be done before the work session. I mean, the Sustainability Commission's not meeting again until after the work session, I think. But we're, you know, we're kind of using that as a pivot point. But yeah, we'd be glad to, why don't you think about it and then let us know. Yeah,
All right. Thanks.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks for all the work.
Yeah, it's fun.
Anyone else will?
Did you
Oh,
have
just a quick
something?
announcement, if you have
Yeah.
a blue bike, your tail light is still flashing.
I think it's mine. I think it's
Oh.
gonna go off. It's a generator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good deal, nice.
You can see it out of the corner of your eye.
No, it was like on it, but I didn't have a chance to say anything.
Nice. Let me just check Zoom one more time. Yeah, that concludes our public comment period.
All right, very good. All right, next up then, approving the June 2026 meeting summary notes. Willa sent these out a few days ago. I read over them and I have to confess it had been long enough that my recollection of the specifics was dim, but we should approve them. And if anyone does have changes, please offer them. Have a motion to approve.
So,
Thank you, Sue. Second,
I'll second.
thanks, Carl. And any changes needed to the meeting notes? I won't ask if anyone has actually read them, because I fear not. But all in favor? All right, thanks. Thanks for taking those.
Before we jump into the next thing, I had mentioned this in the email, but I just want to make a verbal announcement that Josh, our other co-chair, has moved to Portland.
Oh,
And
yes.
we
should
didn't really
have
get a
that down.
chance to like have a meeting with him to be like, thanks for your service. But yeah, we appreciate him. He did a really great job. And is now in Portland. So later in the agenda, I think it's our last item, we'll kind of have a conversation about where we go from here for next year.
Yes.
What? We could probably just, yeah, hold on, right here.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah. I can actually scoot down too. Oh, so we'll get you right here, if that works for you. Thanks for coming.
Ellis knows when to arrive, like right after all the beginning of the agenda and we're diving into the substance. All right. Well, as many of you may have seen, the LTD starting to on a long-range mobility plan and had a public engagement session Tuesday night over at Springfield City Hall. And Carrie, I'm gonna misbungle your last name, Asklar.
Perfect.
All right, who's been here with us before, is back this time to talk about the 2045 mobility plan, and I'll just turn it over to you.
Great. As someone who likes to move around a lot, I'm gonna stand and do this. I'm sorry to people that are online. But it's it's just how I like to do things. Good evening, everyone. My name is Carrie Asklar. I'm an associate planner with Lane Transit District. I'm here tonight to present on LTD's long-range mobility plan. I'll get into what that is in a minute. But I think a quick teaser is comparing it to something called the Transportation System Plan, which I believe this committee has been aware of, that the city has been saying that it's coming to the city of Eugene next year. So our long-range mobility plan is like a comprehensive view of what LTD is doing, operations, programs, policies, investments, all that really good stuff. So that's just a quick teaser. If that's the only thing you take away from this tonight, that is wonderful. I'm here tonight just to inform you of this presentation and this project and ask a few questions at the end. I do want to just note that I'm sure that this committee is familiar with like how wonderful transit is and like how it is part of active transportation. But I do want to note that 95% of the way that people access transit is by walking and biking, which is pretty astounding. And so there's definitely a connection that LTD sees with supporting active transportation and vice versa in that relationship. So that's why I'm excited to be here tonight. Next slide.
Nice intro picture incidentally with the bike on the bus and the Peace Health bike.
Timed it perfectly.
We like it.
Really quick, this is our these are our mission, vision, and values. This project is really aligned with that mission to connect our community and also with our vision that in all that we do, we're committed to creating a more connected, sustainable, and equitable community. So I just wanted to point that out. Next slide. So what is Connect 2045? So this project is essentially three things. One, it's a community-driven vision for mobility. We're doing a lot of engagement with the public to ask people, what should LTD look like in 20 years? And we really want to have those conversations so that we're meeting the needs of communities in the region and across the county. And that leads us to point number 2, which is this plan is going to be guiding our public transit investments so that we can achieve that vision in 20 years, so that we have to start somewhere. So we're also going to be, from this plan, have a roadmap for what we invest in with our money and our time. And then lastly, this plan is going to help us figure out how to improve access and quality of life in Eugene and across the region and the county. We're really thinking expansively about public transit and the role it can serve. A lot of people are familiar with MX and the buses that you see on the road, but we also have a lot of different tools in our toolbox, such as microtransit, our role with micromobility, mobility on demand. So these are some things that we've kind of played around with in some corners of the county that we think could really serve a role in the future of mobility. Next slide. Just taking a moment to ask the question, why even make a plan? I think it's really valuable for these 4 points. One is just to revisit and confirm all the overarching goals and policies that we have. Sometimes there are policies that say A, and sometimes we have policies that say X, and sometimes they conflict with each other. So just looking at what policies that we have right now, maybe doing some soul searching to make sure that this plan works for LTD, not just LTD broadly, but also internally, so that our planning department is aligned with our IT department, is aligned with our compliance department. So it's going to inform our work for years to come, is what I'm saying. Number 2, it's also going to set expectations with our partners and the public. So LTD does a lot of things, and we serve a lot of roles, and that's not always driving a bus. Sometimes we're asked to crunch some numbers and provide data. Sometimes we do fund other projects that aren't solely LTD projects, but contribute to transportation in the county. We are also asked to advise on certain projects. We're also asked to coordinate certain projects. We're also asked to just have a say in different projects, like the 99 Vine. that's service across 3 different counties. We didn't know about that, but we're asked to provide input on, hey, how is this working for your region? So this plan is to really set expectations and to really just have a shared understanding of what LTD's role is in a variety of different projects. Number 3, it's also a way for us to recommend new approaches to implementation and funding. We're thinking as expansively as we want to be about mobility, then we have to have a plan about implementation and how we're gonna fund it. And then lastly, to synthesize all the policy and guidance and direction from other plans, we have our strategic business plan. We have system reviews where we look at our routes and where they go and the ridership and really dive into the details. We also have a bunch of federal plans that we're required to have to get the money. And we're also required to update this one every 2 years and that one every 4 years and that one every 7 years. And so this plan is a way for us to really wrangle all that, have it in one place so that we're keeping up with it all. Next slide. This is our project's timeline. So we really just kicked things off this spring. And we've been diving into the goals and issues and the needs that exist in our system today. We just finished, or we're kind of in milestone number 1 with that open house that Charlie mentioned. This fall and winter, we're going to be moving into improvement options based on what we hear about the issues and needs today. We're going to have another open house probably late winter, early spring. So be on the lookout for that. We'd love to come back maybe around that time. And then we're going to have a draft plan in the spring and summer, and then have it adopted by our board of directors next fall. Next slide. So diving into that first phase of the project, the goals, issues, and needs. So this really entails us doing that soul searching of what plans and policies do we have. We're also looking at the plans and policies of our partners across the county and really just helping us set the context of where are we today. We're also setting goals and objectives so that we can guide the work of the plan and also have something to look back on when we start thinking about cool new ideas. This phase also includes looking at the existing and future conditions of our system today, who's riding the bus, who's not riding the bus, and also the land use context, which is really important to support transit throughout the system. And then also asking the question, what future conditions or changes should we be accounting for? And then we're just starting off this piece, which is looking at the needs. Given all the policies and the guidance and the goals and the conditions existing in future, what should we be addressing? What should we be focusing on? And what should we be thinking solutions? What solutions should we be thinking about? Next slide. So I mentioned that we have these draft goals. Is that you?
Yeah.
Picture it from the open house on Tuesday. Thank you, Peter. I wanted to share these goals even though they're draft, so they may tweak a little bit in the future, but just to share what we're thinking about in this project. So just gonna make sure I'm referencing the correct information. So number 1, we want to make sure that communities are connected. That's kind of our bread and butter. We want to make sure that people are getting to where they need to go. We also want to make sure transit is an attractive mobility option for most people, making sure it's comfortable and convenient and it prioritizes the needs of people who need it the most. We're also trying to promote community development. So being good partners with the business community, but also making sure we're investing in transit to where our partners want to invest in as well. We also want to work together as one region, just be good partners and collaborate with folks. We want to keep safety at the forefront. And this means both real and perceived safety, as well as taking a comprehensive look at approaching safety through a safe systems approach. So that's kind of language that you hear in the safety realm of transportation world. I think this is getting a little wonky, but all this to say is that we're thinking more broadly about the role of transit in safety on our roads. And then lastly, we want to operate a system that is adaptable and sustainable, which is code for being resilient, being ready, being nimble for whatever happens next. Next slide. So that was kind of that first chunk of the project, the goals, needs, etc. moving to the second phase, we're gonna be looking at improvement options and implementing the plan. So I mentioned we have a lot of tools in the toolbox, and this is where we're gonna come up with ideas where maybe we need some new policies that kind of push us in the right direction. Maybe it's service approaches or recommendations that also do that. We have our fixed route system and the MX system, which is our backbone, but how can we connect more with folks in neighborhoods that don't have as much access to transit? What's the role of microtransit and micromobility and bike share? How do we connect with rural services? Again, we want to make sure that we're thinking about land use so that the system is connected and we boost ridership. And then moving into the draft and adopted plan, happening late spring next summer. We're gonna have some recommendations for the next 20 years, but we're also gonna have a short 5-year implementation plan so that we get going, we have some momentum, and that we don't stop moving forward. Next slide. So focusing more on public involvements, this is a snapshot from our community outreach framework, where we want to be having intentional conversations with folks that that meet people where they are. And so this could mean using a certain style to engage with the public, making sure the content isn't too wonky or jargony, making sure that the process is good and transparent, and then also making sure that people are aware of the intent of our engagement. Next slide. So I think I touched on this a little bit. We have these 3 major milestones where we'll be applying this community outreach framework. One, we're in right now, introducing the plan and the process, getting feedback on our needs. 2, we're going to share those investment ideas and the policies, get feedback on those. Does this land right, or did we miss the target completely? And then lastly, our last milestone is just reviewing the plan and saying, hey, this is what we're going to be moving forward with. Help us with this momentum. Next slide. So all of that feeds into our multi-pronged outreach approach, which has a lot to it. We have 2 committees as part of this project. One is a technical advisory committee, which is where our partners at the city of Eugene and Springfield and the county and LCOG and EWEB, they serve on that committee. I mentioned we'll have transportation folks as well as land use folks. We also have a community advisory committee comprised of nonprofits, community partners, folks of the business world, folks of the tourism world. We have a representative from, I think, the Coke World tribe. We have recreation folks, social services. So it's a really diverse community, folks that ride the bus and don't ride the bus, who are going to help us bring that community perspective to this project. We also have work sessions with our board of directors. The first one is next week. In addition to organization and jurisdiction meetings, small group meetings, such as like focus groups, open houses, tabling, and other in-person events. So we're going to be everywhere all at once. You're going to see us a lot because we want to hear from you all. Next slide. And that concludes me talking at you. I would love to hear what questions you have about this project. And I do have a few questions that I have for you all, but I want to pause because I just tossed a lot of information at you and ask if you have any questions.
We're out of the habit. Remember to tilt your card up. Peter.
Yeah, just to help like frame this conversation, were you able to read the old plan that this is replacing, and could you like refer to anything that has changed because of that plan?
That plan I've heard, so I wasn't around in 2014. But that plan I've heard was the process was not very robust, and so not a lot is still useful for us. The process was not as transparent. I've heard from other LTD colleagues that they weren't involved, so they didn't really feel a part of it. There's also just been a lot of changes, like technology has expanded a lot. There's also a pandemic. There are just so many other changes that there could be a few things that we bring forward, but we also are we've pivoted our mindset towards mobility as well a lot since 2014. So I think my direct answer to you is not a whole lot.
Which plan is that you're referring to?
Our last long-range plan was called the Long-Range Transit Plan.
Okay,
That was from 2014.
Gotcha. Alright.
That's also on our website if anyone would like to check that out.
because there was another plan that was also kind of a longish range thing that going to result in a lot of route reduction and in favor of increased service levels, but that's different than what you're talking about. That was sort of in between, I guess.
Yes, I think you're referring to our system review. Does that ring a bell?
Another name, but I can't remember it
They're
now.
called Transit Tomorrow.
Yes, that's it.
Yes. Again, I was not here for that plan, but from what I've heard is that there were changes in that plan that were not feasible when the rubber hit the road for us to implement, while they might have looked great on paper. So I think that that was not as comprehensive as this, but I think that focused a little more on our system, our fixed route system.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Was that your question?
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to remember the name of that and what its relationship was to these other ones. So,
Yes.
yes, I just as clarifying. Anyway, Sue and then Hollis.
This seems like a really daunting task just because there's so many unknowables about, are there gonna be self-driving cars? Are there gonna be self-driving buses? Are people still gonna be using all that sort of stuff? But I was also, the other thing I was wondering is how much of your budget do you control? I mean, it seems like, if you're dependent on federal grants or state grants and those are so iffy at this point. How do you handle that?
Yeah. I personally don't control much budget. I don't know if that was who you're talking about, but LTD as a whole, we do have a good budget right now. The transportation funding context that we're in right now, states and federal, is not very great. But I think that makes this a really good time to be thinking comprehensively so that when the winds change and the tide rolls in, that we are ready to implement some of these big ideas. So it's helpful to still be thinking big, even if the funding picture doesn't look great right now. Is that?
Maybe a thing. You have your ideal plan and then if we have to scale it back, what changes do we make or what, from what we actually thought, and maybe we can scale it back up.
Hollis, and if you don't catch everything Hollis says, someone will help. Hollis.
If go to make
I'm wondering if you're able to make.
like
Price source. Easier
for this
for disabled.
make
Or make.
more business and business
Buses.
more needed people. There's more places
More spaces.
for chairs.
He was wondering if there was a opportunity to make more spaces in the LTD buses.
That's a good question, because I know we're we're limited at over 2 per 40-foot bus, and that makes it hard to go. That just makes things harder. You also mentioned if we're thinking about making ride source easier.
I do. Is. No.
He doesn't use it because they are not flexible
Oh,
at all.
I got. That. Everywhere.
He drives his wheelchair everywhere.
This is true.
What? Really, I am. Make more. And. Yeah. I thought. Well. Maybe. Or. It makes. Well.
Make more EMX routes.
Yeah, we are thinking about the future of MX in this plan. I think that we don't have any solid, we're not sure if MX, how much to expand it right now. I know there was a big plan a few years ago on a few different corridors that didn't really go anywhere. So I think that MX is a really wonderful service, but I think that we need to think about what is in between MX and what is in between our fixed route service. Maybe there's a service in between that is something called enhanced transit corridors, where there are better stations or it's some ways that we can make that service better. But for right now, MX, we don't have any solid plans on what the future of it will look like.
They.
If I could ask just one question, and then we can move on to your questions maybe, and then if there's still time, have more from us. But there's 3 terms that I was wondering if you could give us a little bit more sense of what you mean. And the 3 are investment. You talked about this being something directed for investment, and I'm curious, does this mean like new investment, like this, like you're thinking new dollars to invest, or the way we invest the dollars we already have? Like I'm not quite sure what you mean by investment there. The second was you talked about communities in the sense of connecting communities, and which does seem important, but I'm wondering what's included in that and how you're thinking about communities. Is it just the communities you already serve, or is it additional communities? And how does that work? Are you thinking about communities as being sub areas within existing cities, for example? So, you know, is Bethel or Santa Clara separate community per se than downtown or South Eugene? And then finally, the term mobility, which I know has become popular, and you mentioned that was something that become a new emphasis since 2014. And how does LTD think about its role in terms, when you throw that out, this is a mobility plan, I mean, are you thinking a lot beyond buses, or are we mostly still talking about buses and rideshare vans and the kind of things we're used to thinking about in terms of ways that LTD provides mobility?
Yeah, well, I think tackle your first question about what we mean about investments. I think that that could mean a variety of different things. It's tough to say. I'm thinking, Sue, of your question of like, money doesn't look good right now. What are we even thinking about doing? Is that similar to what you're wondering about?
Well, no, I just, you know, I think what I'm wondering is, I mean, investment sounds like new something new, I'm gonna invest in something new, but it could mean, you know, how are we just spending the money we have? You know, what we're investing in, you know, we're investing in the service, we're investing in new capital projects, we're investing, you know, new stations, you know, new MX route, new vehicles. I mean, what, in terms of investment, I guess I'm trying to get a picture of like what, when you say throw investment up on that screen, what's the range of things that's included that you're thinking about as investments, and does it include what you already have that you're just reinvesting in, or is it like you're talking about new stuff?
Yeah, I think the answer is both those things. I think a cop-out answer I could go with is, we're gonna figure that out in phase 2. But I think a quick example is our fare system right now. At some stations, we have ticket vending machines, which they're not really popular. They're not used much, but we know that they're valuable because there are people that still use them. Some of the technology in them is getting outdated, and so sometimes we have to spend money to go out there, grab the thing and send it to the maker who doesn't sell the parts anymore. So they have to put other parts together and kind of make it a zombie ticket vending machine and then send it back to us. Should we keep investing in that, or should we invest in a ticket system, a fare system that is just easier for people to use on all different levels? So I think that's one example of how we're approaching investments, of like, should we how should we use our money? Should we keep putting money into things that exist, or should we think about changing something completely? I think related to service, we are still going to be investing in our backbone services like MX and our fixed route service. But we've also been hearing a lot from the recreation community about people want to get out to Oak Ridge and up the Mackenzie River. And they want to go hiking and mountain biking and things like that. So should we be investing in vehicles that can better suit those trips? Or should we just be buying another 40-foot bus that could still make that trip, and you can increase frequency on those routes so more people can access those places, even if they are still limited to 2 bike racks? So those are kind of the questions that we're asking ourselves when it comes to investments. So that was a long answer, sorry.
Right. So communities?
Yes, community. You asked about what we mean about connecting communities. I think you mentioned different neighborhoods within the city of Eugene. You mentioned the Bethel community. I think that's one community that we do want to invest in. In fact, we have a federal grant right now called the Attain Grant, where we're looking at some mobility on demand options within that community because we know that it's underserved. We're also thinking about, we have a service in Cottage Grove called the LTD Connector, which is also an on-demand service. It will go anywhere in the city for $1, but it won't leave the city per se. And so is that a service that we could also deploy maybe in Florence or maybe in Junction City to connect those communities as well? So we're recognizing that there are communities that are close to our system today that we're not well connected, but also there are different service models that we could be applying to different parts of the county as well. Does that answer?
I think so.
Okay. And then
And then
question 3.
what's captured within mobility, and is the way LTD is thinking about it from this mobility?
Yeah, you're asking such good questions. So yes, mobility, we're using mobility more so than public transit, but we're using both. LTD has something called a mobility management framework, where it's a little bit of a jargony term, but it's basically taking a more comprehensive look at the customer experience when it comes to mobility. So for example, right now, if you want to get to the coast and you're in South Eugene or somewhere else in your community, you can hop on an LTD bus, you can pay with your tap card or with your phone. You can arrive at Eugene Station, and then you take a different service, Link Lane, out to the coast, which is wonderful. and then you get to Florence, and then you get back on LTD's system through our service called the Roadie Express. So that's 3 different trips, 2 different systems, which can be confusing for folks. So when we think about mobility management, we want to make that a seamless trip. So maybe that's making it possible to pay for those 3 trips with 1 card. Or maybe we're looking at if your bus stop is a mile away and you don't want to walk that, maybe that's where we invest in bike share to connect to LTD buses so that we have a broader geographic coverage of our system. So that's a little teaser of how we're thinking about mobility these days.
And what questions do you have for us?
Next slide.
There's more slides after the question.
I just look like such the last one.
So
I,
I have some of these questions for folks, just questions that we've been asking folks when we've been tabling and just having conversations about what you want to see from LTD in 20 years. What are the transportation needs that you think we should be tackling, regardless of your definition of mobility? And then what should we be prioritizing? So
About something like electric buses.
yeah, electric buses is a really good topic. There have been a lot of safety issues with electric buses these days. I think the technology just has to get a little bit further for us to really go all in on them. They're a challenge for our fleet mechanics that they have to tackle pretty often. So they are a really valuable bus in our fleets. But we just don't want anyone to get hurt with these safety issues that they've been having. So it's something that we want to look more into in the future.
Did I read that you discontinued LTD discontinued some of the electric buses that you all had? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have discontinued them just because of those safety concerns.
You'd have to find out more about that at some point, but let's go Carl and then Peter.
Oh, well, thank you very much for your presentation. I was actually on the LTD board with Transit tomorrow. So I appreciate what you said about that. And and to answer your questions, like, I would be for more frequency. And I think part of the challenge, of course, with frequency is as you try to also meet the coverage concern. I mean, everyone says, and there's so many challenges with this, but like airport, train, better connectivity between these other modes. And like, I think you're heading in the right direction because you're using you're mentioning all the things that I think people are wanting to go to do, but there's not a lot of good connection for them to do. So whether it's a coast, whether it's mountains, but I'm so glad to hear that you mentioned these things. And then I want to also add, I also appreciate what you said about fares. I think I would love to hear if you have an update on how the summer fare program has gone with the discounted fare. And I hope that in 2045, there's some kind of system that makes it really easy for that slipped out, just people to be able to access transit without having, whether it's some kind of simple app or just like they just literally walk on, it just counts them and then and go from there. Because that's an issue that I feel like when you were saying, like, I know LTD has a lot of old legacy infrastructure, and trying to maintain those fare systems, at some point it's going to cost more to maintain those than it would be just to not collect fares. But just so everyone knows, one thing I did appreciate from my time at LTD is that there is a lot of value in tracking people, not for creepy reasons, but because then you know who's using your system and where they're trying to get to, so that you could build a better system for that, and also for safety, because then like kind of like when you go to Costco or something like that, everyone knows, they know who you are. So if you cause a problem, then that can be addressed at a later time. So I'm just saying that for the benefit of everyone. But yeah. But actually, do you have an update on how the summer fair program has gone?
I have a quick update. So in case you're not aware, we have a summer program right now where trips are $1 on the fixed route system. And I think they're, it's like $3.50 to ride source and they're like $2 or something. Basically, like we're reducing our fares in the month of July and August. I think compared to past years, we've seen like 7% increase in ridership compared to this time last year and years before. So it has been a success. I think we're still waiting for the time to end for us to crunch the numbers, but a quick gut check based on the numbers I saw last is that it's doing really well.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
I have a quick comment and then a question. To Hollis's point, I have seen some buses in other cities that have room for 3 wheelchairs instead of 2. And so maybe that's something to look into with the latest bus purchasing.
You know which ones?
I want to say Gillig, but I don't know.
Or like which cities?
Oh. Yeah, sorry. I swear also the old LTD buses, like the really old ones that smell, had 3 spots.
That's
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it's not only useful for wheelchairs, but also like I have a cart or something, it is nice to have that extra space in the front. And then the question I had is, when we think about the next 20 years, one thing I think about is the city expanding, and a lot of the time, like new subdivisions are built, and then they like, hey, LTD, serve the new subdivision, and LTD's like, how the heck do we serve this new neighborhood that's not built for transit? And so, like, how does LTD get involved with the UGB expansion early, the road network design early, so that like new expansions, like if we built residential near LCC or something, like how do we make it so that fits with our current fixed route system? Are there ways that LTD gets involved or ways that we could better?
Yeah, I know that LTD does meet with land use planners for the city, so that we're in tune kind of with what's coming down the pipeline. I think that that is an area that we could do better at, because there have been times when we see something appear and we're like, oh shoot, we should have said something, and that blocks us off from an entire subdivision. I think that we ourselves could do a better job at communicating the dimensions of our bus and like how long an articulated bus is, the bendy buses, and what we need in the built environment for us to be able to serve an area. So that's something on us as well. But yeah, I think that's also something that we're gonna try to improve on, is making sure that we're at the table when the developer builds a wonderful, beautiful subdivision or apartment building, and we're right there with a pad that's super close to the building, so that's not oriented to a parking lot instead. So that's something that we want to work on.
Thanks.
Well, Carrie, thanks so much. I think I know there's a survey online if you all
Yes.
have not.
The next slide.
Yes.
The next slide, yeah.
Yes. It's super quick, 2 questions, would love your input. Sorry, Charlie, back to
Yeah.
you.
No, perfect. I was hoping you had something to share that way. Worth going on if you haven't had a chance to get your comment in here, to go do the survey. And it's kind of narrative. I think, is there a word limit on the number of things you can type in there? So yeah, write your essay first and then copy and paste.
Are you planning to run an additional survey and like that milestone 2 that is like a bit more specific on what people could interact with? Or?
Yes, yeah, so we'll keep this up for maybe another month or 2, but we encourage you to get your input in now, because we're starting to crunch the numbers and reading the feedback, and then we'll have another survey that asks for feedback on some of these ideas about improvements and where we put our investments and things like that, so.
Carrie, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Carrie.
Okay, we've got one more item before our break. I mean, well, I was looking at this, the Patterson updates, you've got down here for just 10 minutes, even though it was the next one. Then we can have the break closer to the middle if you want to do Patterson update first.
I'm sure, yeah. Patterson
Break
first.
closer to 6:30.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it like that.
It was a last minute.
It was the last minute. Like I was kind of like, okay, yeah, let's talk about Patterson. I'll just put a pretty image up here that we can all look at while I talk about it. Who here went to the community meeting for Patterson last night?
Peter, Alan.
Carrie, okay, great. So we didn't have a meeting in July, so last time we met, it was June, so I'm not sure if I've had a chance in the ATC meeting to really talk about Patterson very much. I know that a lot of you have probably been following that there was a fatal crash there in January and a lot of community organizing around asking the city to make a change like quickly.
And we collectively sent a letter. in
ATC
asking
sent a
for it.
letter kind of along those same lines. The city has basically been able to deliver on that request, which is pretty amazing and not very likely to have happened, and it did happen. In some ways, it was kind of a perfect storm of situations that would made it so that the city could respond to a fatal crash. Most of the time, our fatal crashes happen on multi-lane arterials, where the transportation intervention is not very obvious and very expensive. So like the fatal crash that happened, there's a few fatal crashes that happened on River Road. River Road is such a different context than Patterson. Being able to make a significant change to River Road is so different than being able to make a significant change to Patterson. So that's one reason why this is different. The community organizing that happened around this crash was really different than what has happened in the past. And the intervention that we were able to do is a lower cost intervention than most other streets. So all those things came together, and then the city was able to find funding because one of our other projects, the Broadway paving project, came in under budget. So it was kind of just this like weird perfect storm. We're like, we can actually do this. Like the city's asking for it, we can actually do it. So the project went out to bid this week, and I think we have a contractor who came in as being able to do it. So I think we're looking at construction happening, in the next month or so. It should go in pretty fast. We're hoping it'll be done by the time the U of O students get back at the end of September. So like lightning speed for a government agency.
Yeah.
Like usually I'm like 4 years is short in a government agency timeline, and this is like it hasn't even been a year since Eric died. So which was in January. So anyway, we are really excited. This is a rendering that the Live Move students put together based on the City of Eugene's designs. This is at that S curve. So Patterson is the street that's running on the top of the screen. And then Patterson does this weird thing where it continues straight and turns left into Hilliard. So this S curve was historically 2 lanes. It is out there right now. The existing conditions are being 2 lanes. It's going to become one slightly wider lane. This is really exciting because LTD has been asking us for years to do this because they've had to operate on Patterson because 2 lanes on the S curve, the dimension of their buses would require them to take both lanes, which is just unsafe. So making one single wider lane now makes it so that LTD can take Hilliard instead and use a lighted intersection to get across to the YMCA. And the YMCA, when it was built, poured a pad expecting that to happen someday, and it's happening sooner than we were expecting. So benefits LTD, benefits pedestrians and bicyclists because there's 1 lane less at this S curve. Overall, the project is from 18th to 24th. And the goal of the project is to reduce the 2 travel lanes on Patterson that resulted in double threat conditions into a single lane in as many places as we can. So I've got a few other renderings that Live Move put together. Here is what it'll look like at 18th. This would be as if you were biking or driving or walking down Patterson. Looks pretty much the same, but the right lane turns into a right turn only. So you're on 18th, you turn right on Patterson. If you're in the right lane, when you get to 19th, you're gonna have to turn right. If you get in the left lane, you can continue straight. Once it gets to 19th, it turns into a protected bike lane, parking protected bike lane. Not that one. Let me pull up another image. See, it gave me so many. Okay. Okay, so here's kind of an aerial view. There's gonna be a single travel lane and then a bus only lane, and then up here you can see there's like a protected bike lane and parking available. That location that we're looking at right now where the bus and bike are sharing a space is kind of the strangest part of this design. And I have a more helpful image to look at that. That's a little bit closer. So buses and bike sharing space is not an unusual situation in our system. Like anywhere where there's a bike lane and a bus stop, the bus pulls over into the bike lane. This is slightly different because the bus is gonna pull out of the single travel lane into sort of a mixing zone. And then drop and load its passengers and then sort of pull back into the travel lane. So we'll see how this works. Right now, there's no bicycle facility on Patterson. So we're gonna add one, but I don't expect the volume of riders on Patterson to be super large. The buses also do not run on a super high frequency on Patterson, so hopefully the number of conflicts will be relatively low. The reason we're looking at this instead of moving the bus pad is because moving a bus pad requires pouring concrete and removing trees, and this is a pilot project. So cutting down trees and pouring new concrete is not a reversible project. This is a reversible project. So this is our situation right now. If we like how it's working, except for this section, and we want to make a permanent project, that's where we could look at removing trees, pouring new bus pads, moving where the bus pulls over.
Does it have a timeline for evaluation? Like if we don't like it after 2 years, we're pulling it out?
Yeah,
or-
good question. Well, once it's installed, we'll wait 6 months before we start pulling new traffic analysis and speed data. So give people 6 months to get used to it, and then we'll start looking at what do the traffic volumes look like, what does the speed situation look like, and then probably between 8 months and a year, we might we'll probably launch a survey to understand sentiment. So sentiment is much harder to measure than speed. Speed is kind of like there's a number and then there's a new number. Sentiment is one of those things where it's a little squishy. So we'll run a survey and just try to understand what people think about it and what they think about the different segments. And then if it's going well enough, it will probably stick around for a handful of years before we would be able to apply for funding and get money to make a permanent project. If it's a abject disaster, then after a year, if we're like, this is going terribly, we would probably just pull the project and return it to existing conditions. I don't expect that to happen. We don't usually, like the city and our planners and our engineers would not put something in that we expect to be a disaster. We would put something in that we expect to work. So we expect this to work. But you know, you never know what happens. Sometimes the real world is different than it looks on paper. So we'll just kind of see.
Who's leading the project for planning and for engineering?
Reed is the project manager or the lead planner. I don't know if we have a construction PM assigned yet. Yeah. So stay tuned for that.
Any other questions?
Other questions about Patterson?
Buses do run every 15 minutes, so it's pretty frequent for LTD standards.
Yeah, every 15 minutes is pretty frequent. We can monitor the amount of conflict that happens.
See, like when school lets out and all those South Virginia high school students go down to the Y.
Uh-huh.
Which happens to be about 5 o'clock and you can't get on any machine. There could be quite a few bikes going down there
Mhm.
during that period.
Do you have something?
You thought it was every half hour, the buses came.
But there's 2 buses that run on it. There's the 81 and also I think it's the 28. And section, it's
Yeah.
every 15.
half
Mhm.
hour, but
Yeah.
they're staggered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and starting in 3 weeks, they're gonna perfectly stagger them so that it will actually be every 15 minutes as you experience it, instead of 2 buses running 5 minutes after each other. So thank you, LTD, for doing that.
Yeah.
Gonna be great.
Kindly, but that's not very nice.
Yeah.
And they're doing that, like, not just this route on Patterson, but across the system. I think they're staggering, so there's gonna be 15-minute service on a handful of different
Yeah,
streets.
Coburg as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Carl.
Will, did you say the one lane Patterson will start at 18th?
It'll start at 19th.
19th,
At
okay.
18th, the right lane will turn into a right only.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then once it gets to 19th, so for bike riders, it's a little weird because the bike lanes are on 18th. The bike lanes aren't on 19th, but some people use 19th as more of a neighborhood greenway. So if you're on 18th, you'll kind of have to like take the lane for a lane until you can get to Patterson. But as far as the schools are concerned, it should work pretty well. So yeah, it'll just be something we're monitoring and watching, see how it works. But Reed was making the point, and this will be my last point, I guess, that Patterson and Pearl Street have really similar traffic volumes, and Pearl Street at 18th also turns into a single lane. So we're expecting this to function pretty similarly to Pearl, which is it's 2 lanes until 18th, and then it kind of transitions into 1 lane, and then it goes 1 lane all the way to 24th. And that works great on Pearl, gets a little bit of traffic during PM rush hour, but that's pretty standard for most of our streets. So we think it'll function more or less like Pearl. Yeah.
Well, all credit to the city for, I realize what you're saying about this was a unusual set of circumstances, but it is responsive to what this group asked for in our letter, which, included, do something quickly to show that the city is being responsive to a safety issue, a known hazard on our streets. And it's great to see it happening. And I hope we can see it happen again, and it's not just a one-off.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the last thing I'll mention is that right now the city does not have any kind of like rapid response program. Like with the Beacon crash that happened at River Road and Beacon, we looked at putting a temporary roundabout in there. It came in at around $600,000 to do that. We decided to apply for an arts grant instead to put a permanent roundabout, but even once we get that, it'll be another 3 or 4 years. Like, that's like a 5 to 8 year situation between fatal crash happening and an intervention going in, which is more typical. If we want to have a rapid response program, I think that's the type of thing that you all could go to your counselors or email or go to a meeting and ask for in the next sort of like round of transportation funding. If it feels like something that's important to the community, that the city has a way to make those rapid responses. So.
All right, thanks, Willow. Well, let's take a quick 5-minute break. And
Back at 6.
come back for River Road and Highway 99 preliminary results, which is also Willow.
Cool.
See you back at 6:40. Actually, a few minutes.
Yeah,
We'll make it work.
it's the next bond measure is 2020.
how and where does that make sense for us to do that? Yeah.
All right, anything else?
Oh,
No, all right. We're running a little behind, but I think we'll make it up here, the sprint to the end of the meeting. The next item on the agenda, oh, I should say, thanks, Willow, for sharing that. Very helpful. And,
Yeah, of course.
Look forward to
Yeah, we'll keep you posted.
joining. So the next item is kind of a business thing. We lost our co-chair, Willow, sent out an email and mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, I should have too, Josh. Had a better life choice than spending time here with us. And hard to believe there's a better life choice than spending time with us, but I'm gonna miss him. He brought a really different perspective to the discussions from the one I bring, and I was always really interested to hear his take on things, which is comes from a completely different part of the field than mine do. But in addition to losing his voice, we've also lost our co-chair. And this does seem to work better when we have two of us. And so Willow sent out a solicitation a little while ago, and I don't think we got a response from anyone to that, right? Though I had previously, before he left on a very long hike, I had talked to Peter about stepping into that role, and I think he's willing. True?
Yeah.
All right. So
hey,
I have to say, I don't really know what our process is. Do we elect a co-chair as a committee, or can
we
we just
do.
appoint it?
Yeah, we elect a co-chair, just the same way we approve the meeting notes.
All right.
It's just like someone motions and then
Very
someone
good.
seconds and then we do the thumbs up thing. It
That
doesn't sound like we have anyone else who's interested.
Yeah,
Just wanna.
there is anyone else who's interested. This is your last chance. Like, raise your hand and say, no, I really wanted that. It does get the chance to meet with Willow more than one time a month. Mainly what we do, we sit down and hash out the agenda with Willow.
And typically, like right now it's August. Normally we don't do co-chair elections in August, but we had a co-chair leave midway through. So
Yeah.
this is sort of like a short appointment. And then in January, when we bring on our new members, there would be an opportunity to make a change to the co-chairs if we wanted to. So
I'm glad.
that's there as well.
All right. What do you want, Carl?
I'd like to nominate Peter as co-chair.
Very good. Is there a second? Hollis, I think. Were you seconding there, Hollis?
Yeah.
You had your hand up first, yep. All right, all in favor? Woo-hoo. Guys, you get to vote too, Peter.
There we go.
All right. You can support yourself.
Always vote for yourself.
Very good. So we replaced the co-chair, and thanks so much for stepping forward, Peter. You're the right person for this job, I think.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And
Yeah.
I guess policy subcommittee people expect an email from me about organizing that too.
Great. Will, you also put down here, ATC recruitment and discussing next year. Is there more that we need to talk about here?
Yeah, so it's August. Next month is September. If you didn't know. And that's usually when I start having conversations with folks about ATC recruitment and what the following year looks like. So in September, basically I'll send out the terms list, and it'll have your name and it'll show what term you're at and how long you're eligible to stay on the committee. And what I want from all of you is an email back saying either, yes, I will stay on for the next year, which would be I'll stay on for 2027, or no, I'm stepping off the committee. And that helps me know how many people to recruit for starting after our September meeting. So starting like mid-September, I'll get the application going and I'll start doing communications and pushing like how many spaces we have open. What I ask is that if you are having like a feeling like you might want to step off the committee, this is a good time to do it, because if you step off the committee like partway through, then I don't fill your position until the following fall. So if you are feeling like you might want to, I would encourage you to do it now, but also we want all of you to stay.
Wow.
And you know, you can sort of see at this table, is sort of the results of people not being able to stay, because we've lost
Four.
4 people.
Yeah.
Josh being the most recent one, but since the start, and now, you know, since not everyone can make every meeting, it starts looking pretty thin around the table. So we could definitely, I feel like we have better conversations when there are more people.
All of that to say, it's really nice when we have long-term members, so if you guys can stay, we would love to have you all stay. So I just wanted to mention that and kind of get the heads up. So the next time I send out the agenda and the notes, I'll also send the terms, and then I'll ask you each to respond to me and let me know if it's a yes or a no for the next year.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
And if you know of cool people who you think would be good for the ATC, maybe start mentioning that to them as well.
Very good. Any questions? Comments? All right. In that case, we're on to updates and information share, and starting with Aubrey Park Path.
Yeah. I thought I'd just do a quick info share for this. Speaking of there being a lot of sidewalk needs on River Road, here is Aubrey Park Elementary School, which is this nice, cool, round building. And here's River Road. And right now, if we go into Street View, if you're gonna walk to school, you get to walk right there. Which is a little stressful and not very like kid friendly, I guess you could say. So similar to what we're doing on Howard, we're doing just a really small protected walking space where we're putting bolt down curb instead of permanent curb. We're putting bolt down curb and widening it a little bit here to make a protected walking space, so that the kids can walk down Spring Creek Drive all the way to here where the sidewalk begins in front of their elementary school. So that construction is starting within the next probably week or so on that project, and should be ready by the time school's in session for Aubrey Park Elementary. So that's my update.
All right.
One little.
Everyone feels like
Yeah.
everyone feels like the experiment on Howard's working pretty well.
The experiment on Howard is working really well. We even have gotten some emails from property owners on Howard who emailed the city and they were like, I was really skeptical about this, but I was wrong. Like, this is awesome. Like, seeing all the kids walking and biking, all the residents and people walking their dogs, and like, it's just so much better than it was. So that seems really good. We haven't gotten anyone who was like, I thought this would be cool and it wasn't. So Portland's doing a similar thing where they're doing these kind of protected on-street spaces in some of their unimproved streets too, and they've been having good outcomes as well. So we'll see, you know, how this is only our second one. We don't really have plans for another one, so we'll see when we do the TSP update if we identify more projects like that.
And then I assume you also then have something on River Road paving and bus stops.
Oh,
which is
yeah.
the next.
Okay. While we're on River Road,
Yeah.
while we're speaking of River Road, we just have these two projects. They're both going to construction right now. Actually, I think the River Road paving project started on Monday this week. So River Road is having it's kind of a small paving project further down from the Beltline interchange to Green Lane. Green Lane's right here, so it's just this section here. But the cool thing about this project from down south here where the Beltline interchange is up to Green Lane is that when we have a paving project, it's an opportunity for restriping. A lot of the lanes on River Road are wider than standard. So because they're like a previous standard or they were just built that way for some reason, I'm not really sure why. But what we can do is without having to do any lane removal, we can skinny the lanes just a little bit and get more space to create a buffer. So the bike lane in this section will become buffered. We're also installing a couple floating bus stops where the bike lane will route behind the bus stop. And people will be loading like right at the street's edge so that the bus doesn't pull into the bike lane. It also doesn't do this weird, like half in the bike lane, half in the travel lane, where the drivers who are behind the bus are like, okay, do I stop or do I just like sneak around? The bus will just fully stop in the travel lane. So that means the people behind them either, you know, safely merge into the other lane or they wait. There's no gray area because the bus is fully in the travel lane. So we think it should improve like safety outcomes for pretty much every mode. And it'll also be a really good experiment to have some floating bus stops on River Road and just see kind of how they operate. And we also expect it to improve efficiency for transit as well, because when they pull out, that means they have to pull back in. And if there's a lot of traffic, it can be really hard for them to find time and judge the gap and get back into traffic. If they're just in the travel lane, they load and unload their passengers and then they just step on the gas and they go. There's no merging that has to happen. So that's cool because it's a just regular paving project, but we were able to get some active transportation projects sort of mixed in as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm starting to lose my voice.
Okay, well, good. You just, it lasted long enough.
I think
We
got
just
that.
finished all your items. All right, BPAC. And as part of this, we're gonna have a short conversation about the scouting trip to find a good route from the I-5 pedestrian bridge over to Riverbend. But you'll have to remind me your name. What's that?
Devin.
Devin.
Yeah,
Devin.
I'm from BPAC.
Yes, so if you have things to share from BPAC, other than that, dive into that, but I'm also gonna get Carl and Sue who are part of that that expedition to weigh in on that scouting trip.
I mean, the only other thing to report, in case you haven't noticed, is we finished a project recently where, like, right after, if you're going down the North Bank path, right after I-5, we put in some great wayfinding signs.
Oh, really?
That we had been working on for a long time, with Willamette Lane. So they helped us with that. So just, you know, as you're just entering Springfield from the Eugene side, it's basically helping guide people through what becomes a little bit of a maze of trails that go kind of through the forest and along the river. And, you know, you're either heading to downtown or you're going up towards Gateway or whatever, wherever you're going. So it just kind of helps to make sense of where you are when you get to that point.
Oh, well, terrific. I know that was one of the things on the list that ATC, mostly Peter, well, entirely Peter, and BPAC worked on.
Yeah, it's part of that process.
Last year this was one of the objectives, was to try to make wayfinding through there.
Yeah,
So
they're
glad
installed,
it's
they're
happening.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's, oh yeah, there they are.
And someone said, awesome to see BPAC recommendations become a reality. Springfield just posted this today.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So there's a
Awesome.
couple.
Use some of the
photos.
So as far as this Riverbend thing, we just did a bike audit of, we started at that right after there, that pedestrian bridge that goes over I-5 and lands in, like, right there by Bass Pro Shops it is now. It used to be Cabela's, the movie theater and everything. So we started there and took a couple of different routes to get to Riverbend, to get to the hospital. To decide, you know, what kind of wayfinding we want to put in and what route we would recommend people take. And we have some good ideas about what we think would work, but we wanted to kind of maybe do the ride again with some people from Eugene who, like, if you know somebody that maybe does that route, like if you know somebody that works at Riverbend and does that route a lot, you know, we'd like to know what route are people taking, or, you know, from Eugene, so that we can have more input before we make decisions about, you know, what we think should happen.
And Sue and Carl, you were on some or all of that ride as well. What were your takeaways?
Yeah, it seemed to me like you know, we looked at a variety of routes, they all had some, yeah, good things and bad things about them. The one that seemed the most promising, unfortunately, needs a right of way, needs an easement, because right now you'd be sort of trespassing on private property to get to the route. And then even then, it goes, through a park, which in the summer, it's easy to ride. I was concerned about, if it's wintertime and it's dark and it's wet and muddy, it's like, that's a little less desirable. So it's striking how poor the connections between that bridge and Riverbend are, which is, it's not very far away, but anyway. And it sounded like we heard from, and this was my experience working at Riverbend too, that most people either just ride on Harlow and then they cut a little, cut north a little bit before the roundabout. Or if they're coming from Santa Clara or anywhere up north Eugene, they tend to ride on Crescent, which from what I've heard, they weren't crazy about it, but it was okay. I really did not hear, especially there used to be people who would go across the I-5 bridge. And because there used to be a cut through some apartments that you could get, through there, but then they blocked that off. And after that, I didn't hear anybody really who used the I-5 bridge to get to Riverbend. They were either on one of the.
No, by riding on Crescent, you mean going across like Turkey Farm or something and cutting down? What's that?
Game farm?
Game Farm, excuse me, Game Farm.
Yeah, there's a game.
I don't know where I got.
Pheasant right next
Yeah,
to
they,
it.
yeah, they, yeah, they,
One of those would be,
yeah, they take Crescent and I think it is Game Farm or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a tricky situation and it's funny because with so many options of where people are going, it's wayfinding. I don't know, people are kind of all over the place, but the other thing that was, well, at least in my experience, and I was, in the patient care area, but people are working such oddball hours that, Harlow Road, when I was riding to work, there was nobody on Harlow Road. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, so, traffic concerns that might be an issue other times. And there are a lot of people at the hospital, not everybody, but a lot of people at the hospital working odd hours so that they're not really on, they're not really, there's rush hour is not when they're there. Obviously, there are people who work in offices and stuff, so there are people who work kind of 9 to 5 type things, but a lot of people at the hospital are traveling at times that it's not the peak traffic time, so that kind of can affect your perception of what works and what doesn't.
So I had to leave 20 minutes into the ride because of a family emergency, but it was actually very instructive because trying to find my way back was more difficult than I thought. So I actually got lost. So I think so backing up what Sue said, like, yeah, it is, it feels like you have to have some insider knowledge to know how to navigate through that area to get from the gateway area to that side of towards Riverbend. So even for me, even though I live off of Harlow, trying to find my way back to that area, I did not end up where I thought I was going to end up. Actually, because I was going to get back, so I just thought I'll just retrace my steps, no problem. I did want to say it was really nice to be able to have this joint work with BPAC. So that was really great. I hope we do more things like that in the future.
Well, in fact, they have one scheduled on what I made a note of
It's centered around like the Bob Kiefer Center,
August
Main
25th.
Street, and kind of going north and sort of out from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is this something VPAC's just doing, is picking places you feel there needs to be better routing and?
Oh, yeah, it's a normal thing that we do, like a couple times a year, we'll pick like areas where it's like, wow, we really need to address this area. And so a group of us will go and maybe some people will walk and some people will ride, but most people ride bikes and cover, some ground on a map that we've already decided upon. And look at everything, like, does there need to be wayfinding or, how's the striping or the crosswalks or whatever, like basically just looking at all of it and seeing what needs to happen in this area.
That's
Yeah.
terrific.
I mean, it's a great way to do it because you're really like focusing and looking right at it and experiencing it, and
Yeah.
taking notes, and then we compile all the notes into like a document that we save or submit.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I was impressed. I mean, you had a good turnout there. You had, both Emma and
Michael.
Michael, yeah.
Yeah, they're the engineer.
Sort of guide what they were thinking. It was great. It was very impressive.
So you guys don't do that? Sounds funny.
No, we have done right. We haven't actually done one this year, but we have gone out with planners and looked at specific places where they're already contemplating a project to give feedback. Like on the ground, let's look at this all together and talk about different options.
Yeah.
But which is also valuable, but
I
it's
think it makes
different,
more
really.
sense for our workflow a little bit, cause it's like, if you all were just like going on random rides and being like, do a project here, we'd be like, we're not gonna do that. Like, we have these other projects that are already funded, we want your feedback on. So usually I feel like we try to get them to come to a project that we have money for, but we haven't decided what to do yet. And then we'll go
Yeah.
on a ride
Yeah.
and do like, okay, what do we think? of
That's
this
kind
area?
of what we do too. Like,
Okay.
it's not totally random. We
Yeah.
don't just pick any spot. It's kind of like, well, we recognize that this area is a problem and we're ready to start the process of, you know, getting feedback and, you know, the preliminary stages of
Yeah.
planning.
Though it sounds pretty early, I mean, it doesn't sound like Emma necessarily has money or a project to do something about the connection between the I-5 path and Riverbend, but it's like, well, this is an area we
Well,
need to think about.
wayfinding, I think, is a priority there. Because
Okay.
like he was saying, Carl,
Yeah,
like he literally, like, he's not a stranger to the area, but he got lost, you know? It's like, yeah, it is a priority to get some wayfinding in there.
Cool.
The other thing is Springfield's about to update its whole active transportation plan. And
Right.
identify projects and kind of prioritize them, so these bike audits can really inform.
Yeah.
What goes into that plan, so.
Yeah.
this is great. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. on that.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
It's good for us and this is, I mean, the I-5 bridge is obviously connecting Eugene to that corner of Springfield, so I'm glad that we had the chance to participate. I wish I'd been in town. I was actually, I would like to have gone on this. All right, last share out, Rachel from U of O, what's going on?
Yeah, come over here so you can see me. Hey everybody, Rachel from U of O, Active Transportation Coordinator. So a little update from U of O Transportation. I do a lot of outreach and events. So summer is introduction season. We have a lot of new students that are required to come to campus just to get ready for the starting in the fall. And so we try to meet with them as many as we can. We're just kind of doing a big tabling event with other people at the university, other groups and departments. So if folks stop by, then we talk to them and encourage them that they have plenty of transportation options and they don't need to bring a personal car to campus. So a lot of students don't bring a personal car, fortunately, but we really try to make sure they know that this is what you can be doing instead. The other thing we're trying to do more of is better outreach to employees, because employees, while there are fewer of them compared to students at U of O, the employees are more likely to live farther away and drive alone to campus. And so they have more of an impact in terms of their drive alone rates and just like vehicle miles traveled. So better outreach to employees about what their transportation options are to campus. We have a new commute tool that we have online on our website that we put out in May, but employees can use that to learn more about, depending on where they are, how they can get to campus without driving alone. And then just some more targeted marketing we're trying to get out there in the next month before they're coming back to campus to update them about service changes with LTD, for example, and that sort of thing. And then from the planning side, that's not really me, but Paul Comrie, our transportation planner. He looked at consultants, worked with us to look at the Agate Street corridor and especially 15th and Agate. Are you familiar with that intersection where Hayward Field is? So a lot of pedestrians, cyclists coming through, especially during class changes, and then people driving through. And so what could that look like? So the study looked at the alternatives for that intersection and identified some favorable ones. So I don't know that that's fully done yet and available for folks to look at, but it's in progress. And yes, it looks like there's the possibility to decrease some turning possibilities for vehicles and then just have it be more straightforward in terms of what people walking and people biking can expect at that intersection. And yeah, hopefully reduce some conflicts between drivers and other active mode users. Yeah, so that's what Paul's working on.
On the commute thing, it's like a website sort of tool or whatever?
Yes.
And do you get a sense for how much use that gets? Like how much, what are the statistics for people actually checking it?
Yeah, we do have the ability, the person working with me, she's this really talented student actually within the 3PM department. Her name is Briar Turnbull, and she developed this tool that you take the GPS point or you input an address and then you get feedback from this tool. But then it also tracks, what point are they putting in there? It's anonymous. But then also, yeah, like what they have been pitched in the survey. And then there's an optional, or in the tool, but there's an optional survey they can also take to give us other feedback about, barriers that they experience to certain modes of transportation or, some other metrics that they can give us if they take this optional survey after using the tool. So, so far, we released it right before the summer. We've had some folks use it. I think it's like less than 100 so far that have used it, but we're hoping to do a really big push in the fall to get folks to use that more and then get more feedback from them. But yes, some tracking is happening.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I'm
it's
very
right on the-
curious as we're all into the school year, how much use do you get from it?
I hope that the use increases for sure. And I think that it will.
Only for staff, not for students?
I mean, students could use it. Yes, anyone can go onto the website and put in an address and see what we would recommend. It's not gonna be totally accurate for folks that are not U of O affiliates in terms of some of the benefits. So like the bus pass is not free if you're not, yes, you're not necessarily gonna get a free bus pass if you're not a U of O employee or student, but you would be told that if you're, using the tool as a student or employee. But I mean, the bike routing, for example, would be something that anyone could use. And so it talks about transit, biking, walking, bike share, and what we hope would be like reasonable for people to do, right? Like, we're not gonna tell someone, oh, it's gonna take you an hour and a half to do this, that, and that, to get to campus. So trying to keep that in mind. But it is just available for the public on the Transportation Services website.
Well, thank you, Rachel.
Mhm.
That's good info. All right, and we are slightly over. I don't believe either subcommittee met since our last meeting. Probably everyone's been on summer break. But capital projects, I'll be in touch. We'll meet toward the end of the month as we did before, and I'll survey. I don't think we ever gathered to establish a definite date. We did meet at the end of June, didn't we? At the library, yeah. There'll be follow-up on that. And, but thank everyone for being here on this beautiful summer evening, and we'll see you next month. Yay! And welcome to our new co-chair.
Yeah, congratulations.